Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Freelance's Tea Break, the short and sweet podcast you can enjoy whilst you're making a cuppa. We're actually recording this a little bit later in the evening because I have my lovely friend Sarah Wayte who is joining us on the podcast. But she's joining us from Canada, so we just needed to work out the timings a little bit. So there is no cup of tea for me. Do you have a cup of tea or coffee or anything there?
I've got a cold drink on the go because that will keep me so I don't get too parched while I'm talking.
Well, I wanted to bring Sarah on because, so first of all, I'll tell you the story of how I got to know Sarah. So I think Sarah and I have been in the same groups, in the same circles for quite a while now. And Tara Reid, who is someone we both follow, what's her business name? It's not is it the introvert?
She's got the introvertpreneur. Yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm.
So she does loads of obviously introvert friendly content, and she's got a really great community. And she sent out an email with some freebies in there. And I saw one which was like, get a copy review of your website. And I thought, oh, that sounds like quite a good freebie. So I clicked on it and I came to your website, which was already, it's just a burst of colour and delight and very much up my street. So I was like, okay, yeah, this is somebody I want to hear what Sarah is saying about this. And then there's a form I think we had to fill in. And then I thought, oh, I wonder what that'll be. And then you came back and it was like, I think you did 10 minutes for me, but I think you did a really great review of all of the different parts of the copy and the things that I could tweak. And I loved that I didn't even realize, but you were already in my audience. So you had that kind of personal impression about it. And I loved it so much that I was like, Sarah, I need to work with you. And Sarah then came on and I did incredible, like intensive with Sarah doing all about the copy on my sales pages, which has led to me getting more sales on my courses. And we set a little goal together and we've smashed that goal for the last 2 months actually because of the sales pages. I
Oh,
haven't told you that
amazing.
though.
That's amazing. I love hearing that.
So it's been so useful, but I thought it was really useful to share it with the audience because I think the way that you did a personalized opt-in was so clever. And I think, well, do you want to tell us a little bit more about the whole process you went through, like coming up with it and the results you had?
Oh my goodness. I mean, when I first came up with the idea, I didn't even contemplate how I would manage it technically. It didn't even occur to me. That is something I should probably advise people if you are going to do a personalized lead magnet. Think about how the physicality of actually making that happen is going to work because it was a lot harder than I ever expected. I have to say, there were moments of thinking to myself, "What have you done, Sarah? This is ridiculous. How are you going to keep up with this?" And but I will also say, in the same breath, it's the best thing I've ever done for my business as well because it has brought me to people like you. I've actually when I got your when I got the request for your homepage copy review pop up, I completely fangirled. I was like, oh, Emma Cross is asking me to review her homepage. This is amazing. And the pressure was on then. So, but yeah, it was, do you know what it was? It was, I had these other lead magnets. I had before the homepage copy review, I had this, I called it the homepage copy starter pack. And it was a typical PDF and it walked people through the things that they needed to include on their homepage, and it did quite well. I'd get a sign up to it maybe a couple of weeks, something like that, and I used to get some really great reviews from it as well. There was I got some lovely people came back to me and said, "Oh, this has really made a big difference to my homepage," and that was wonderful. But it was just like I felt like I was just telling people what to do and then never hearing from them again. And I thought, how can I actually start a conversation? How can I actually, the homepage copy review is not meant to be uh, a way, obviously, just to keep selling all the time. Although, obviously, that's what a lead magnet is partly meant to do. It's meant to kind of get people onto your mailing list and hopefully at some point they'll want to work with you. But I also still wanted it to be useful for people who I knew maybe couldn't work with me right now or, didn't want to. That's absolutely fine. So, but it was the original lead magnet. It just felt like it kind of cut the conversation off. There was no more conversation and I wanted something to carry that on. And I also thought to myself as well, it was like, what can I do that's just a little bit different, just a little bit more useful to people? What's something that's really going to catch people's eye? And I thought, okay, I'd already talked to people. Oh, so I had this homepage copy starter pack, and I threw a page into it and said, if you'd like me to review your new homepage, drop me a message and I'll do a video for you. So I did a couple of videos through that and found I really enjoyed the process. I really liked talking to people about, tweak this thing here. This looks really good. Maybe move this here. And it was just a fun experience. And I thought, well, why don't I make that the lead magnet instead of giving them all of the, just a downloadable PDF, which, let's face it, if I look in my own archives with lead magnets I've downloaded, there are many, and
Yep.
they floundered there gathering dust, and I knew mine was probably doing the same. But I thought a video is more interact, especially if it's a personalized video. It's based on their own website, so they could get it. It was so personal to them that they could actually start to see where they could make changes, and it would prompt people into action and hopefully some conversations as well, obviously. So yeah, so I decided to make the switch and turn that into the lead magnet, and immediately regretted it when I was trying to set it all up. But once it was out there and I figured it all out, it was, yeah, just the best thing. It's created so many conversations.
And you had a proper design page as well. It wasn't just like sending us a Loom sync. It was Loom sync, Loom Loom link. It
Yeah.
was, you actually sent. It was a proper design page, and at the bottom of the
Yes.
page was how people could opt in.
Yes. Yeah. Just like it was as in the opt-in, or like once I delivered the video, you mean?
The delivering the video.
Yeah, it was. I thought that something years ago, I was part of a group called the Marketing Fix, which is
Mhm.
run by a lovely lady called Melissa Love. And one of the things I remember very much her talking about was get people onto your website. That's where you can brand things, you can make it personal. You can also track it as well, which is really useful. And yeah, being able to then give people next steps with buttons of like ways they could work with me if they wanted to. And I wanted to kind of cover all bases with that as well. It was like, here's a DIY version. Here's you do some of the work and I help you with it. And then there's a complete hand it over to me and I'll do it for you kind of option. So yeah, it just felt like a really good way to be able to give people that really sort of personalized feel of like, oh, this is your video, this is your website we're talking about here, and not just like something else that they can download anywhere else, really. So
It really develops that know like trust factor, because I know there were several others in my membership who've gone on to click through yours, and it just straight away you feel like it's somebody that genuinely has an interest in your copy and your business.
mm.
Um, so yeah, I think it was incredible. Do you have it open all the time, or do you tend to like open up batches of it, or how do you work that?
So in the beginning, I really didn't know whether it would take off or not. So I thought, we'll just put it out there and see what happens. And I made it very clear. I think it's in like the first email I say to people, it's going to be about 2 weeks before you'll get your review. Unfortunately, a
Mhm.
few people have it has taken a little bit longer just because I've ended up with a few more than expected. There was a point there when Tara put the link out on her email. Bless her, she got in touch with me after she'd sent the email, and I already had 50 people had already signed up for it all at once. And she went, "Oh, I
Wow.
should have told you that I've just shared your." And I was like, "Oh, that's amazing! Thank you so much. Yes, I'm going to go and do some reviews now." Then in that case,
Yeah, you won't hear
but
from me for 3 weeks now. I need to
yeah,
just be recording
exactly.
constantly.
But actually, that was a really good experience as well because I got it down to a fine art. I can record the video, I can have the page up, and I can have it delivered all in 15 minutes. That's what it takes me per person, which over time, obviously, I've done something. I worked out the numbers for somebody the other day. I've done 125 of them since the beginning of this year,
Wow.
which has added up to around about 30 hours of work in total. And I know that's free. I know I'm not getting paid for that. But the value that I've got from that since then, the conversations, I've been invited to summits, people have made, booked services through me. I've made some really great connections. I've got invited to talk on this podcast all through, through a free thing that took me 15 minutes. So that to me is well worth its weight really in what it's done. So I've completely forgotten what your question was.
Well, no, just building on what you were saying there, 30
Mm,
hours, someone might sound like a lot, but actually,
mm,
when you think about how much time we spend on social media,
mm.
doing the same thing, essentially, building that know, like, and trust factor,
Yes.
this way, seems a lot more direct, and you it's not like you're having to do like 20 posts until somebody decides to work with you. It can be
Yes.
one freebie, a 15-minute video, and that converts.
Yes.
Or they join your email list. And I wanted to touch on your email list because your newsletters are some of my favorite newsletters that hit my inbox.
Oh, thank you.
Um, they and I, as we were saying before, sort of saying before the call, or before we hit record, I think you and I have the same thing, that it's really important for us to be um for our emails to be actionable and interesting, but
Mm,
also yours has that extra layer of, like, you've added so much color into, like, the colored text is such a simple thing to do,
mm.
but for someone like me with ADHD, it makes it so much more readable. And I just always know I'm going to open something and going to come out of it like knowing something more, or understanding something, or a cool new tool to do, or a podcast to listen to. So I always know that there's going to be something there. How has your sort of journey with your newsletter been? Have you learned things along the way with that?
Oh, so much, so much. The when I first started a newsletter, it was a mailing list. It was, oh, you need to have a mailing list, and it was just the done thing. And I was very much of the mind when I first started, oh, I'll just email people once a month because I don't want to bother them, which I feel like is very common across the board. I hear lots of people say that. And I ended up doing a course. I don't even remember how long ago it was now, but somebody mentioned on this that they talked about, don't want to bother people. And the point was made, actually, if you're only emailing people once a month, you've only got 12 opportunities to sell to them. So that's going from a very sort of sales perspective. And I thought, okay, that's interesting. And then the other thing they said was, people have signed up to your email because they want to hear from you. And really, I mean, they were advocating for emailing every day, and I was like, no, there's no way I'm going to be doing that. Not possible. But I started with, I think I increased to like twice a month, just because that felt a bit easier. But what I was finding is, because I was only emailing people twice a month, I was trying to pack so much into it. It was taking me forever to write these emails. I'd have it on my list, write email today, and it would take me all day to write one email, which is ridiculous. And I don't remember why, but something, I suddenly got the idea of, why don't I email people 3 times a week? Which,
Yeah.
when I started talking to people, they were all like, really? Three times a week? Are you crazy? Is that you're going to be having people unsubscribe all over the place? And I thought, well, if I can keep them interesting and short, that was a big thing for me as well. Again, I'm also ADHD. I think a lot of it is attention span. And the more I thought about it as well, was actually, I want to build, I want one of the things really important to me is to respect people's inboxes, because I know I'm not the only email that people are subscribing to. I get something like 300 emails a week from places that I've subscribed to. If they all take me 10, 15 minutes to read because they're so long, and to get to the point of some of them as well, which can be all the way down the bottom, that's a lot of my time just spent reading emails, which is why people end up with thousands of unread emails in their inboxes. But if I could send 3 quick short emails each week and actually have people read them and get some information from them, and actually they'd be helpful emails as well, helpful in the respect of, yes, sometimes I'll teach a lesson, or give people some advice, or again sharing other people as well. I've made my Wednesday emails like my community email now. I like to share things that I found around the internet, people that I've worked with, or people that I just admire and think, go and have a look at this thing. Sometimes I throw an affiliate link in there. Most of the time it's just stuff that I found. Um, and it has created that conversation. And then as it progressed, it was like, well, actually, I also want to I want to send out a letter every week. I don't want to send a sales email.
Yeah.
So my Friday email became, I think I call it unapologetic insights. It's like a little letter I send to people, strictly no pitching. I never pitch any of my services in that email at all. Sometimes I'll link to occasional things that I've seen that's useful in there, but mostly it's just a letter and it's some thoughts. And that's the one that gets the most engagement, actually. That's the one I always get replies to. It starts conversations. I've had so many more conversations because of not selling to people all the time. And what's ended up happening is, obviously, again, like you say, it's building that know, like, trust. People know now, they get me. I've had emails from people saying, I wait to get your emails every week, and they're the first thing as soon as I see them, I open them straight away. And that's brilliant to be able to have that kind of validation from people. hopefully means I'm doing something right. But that's kind of how it's progressed. And I got to the point where I was like, I realized sending 3 emails a week wasn't about trying to sell all the time. It's just about being top of mind, about people remembering me. Some of these people may never ever work with me, but if they know somebody who needs a copywriter, they're going to think, do you know what? I know a really great copywriter because I get her lovely emails every week and pass that information on. So yeah, I know that's not stuff you can track, but it's it's so valuable.
Yeah, to me, it's more important that when you get that feedback that people are waiting for your emails, or like
Mm,
if anything happens and your email doesn't go as scheduled and people going, oh, your email hasn't come back yet. That's such amazing feedback. And I think when you were saying about the people who send just once or twice a month, um, I'm so terrible with remembering names and things that if someone emails only once or twice a month
yes,
and it pops up, I'm like, who's this again? Whereas if I've had like
exactly. Yeah.
2 or 3 a week, I'm like, okay. And I think people think if you send 2 or 3 a week, you're going to be bugging people. But if you're sending 2 or 3 a week and every time they're going to open it, there's going to be something they're going to like, they're going to enjoy, they're going to click through, even if it's just sometimes it's like great imagery or something like that. And I know you're a photographer as well. So yours
Mhm.
is always a real mixture of great copy and great images as well. But I think it's worth people's time then. It's a bit like saying, oh, I don't want to post every day on social media because people will be bored of you. And like you said earlier, they followed you because they want to see more of that.
Yeah.
As long as you're not being a
Yeah.
nuisance or just sending stuff that's just selling every day,
Yeah. Yeah.
then
Coming, if you come from that direction of just genuinely wanting to connect with people, it's for me, there was a bit of a mindset switch a year or so ago in that I felt like I was constantly selling to people and I really hated that. And somebody
mm,
asked me the question, or they turned around and said, well, why don't you think of it instead of you're not selling to people, but you're excited to tell people about what you do today? And I thought that's really awesome because I am excited. I get so nerdy about the whole, everything to do with that's why I love doing the homepage copy reviews because it's 10 minutes where I get to completely nerd out on somebody else's homepage. I usually learn something new as well at some point through doing that. And yeah, it's these are like my fun topics to talk about, words and photos. These are the things I get really or like tingly over. So why wouldn't I want to share that with people? So yes, that's I think it is like trying to change reframe that to I'm not just trying to push sales all the time. Yes, obviously that is the ultimate goal. We do want to sell our services and make some money. We wouldn't be doing this if we didn't want to try and make some money and earn a living. But we also, I feel like when you're especially freelancers and probably like neurodivergent freelancers specifically, we get into this because we love doing what we do as well. So why not share that?
one of the best things I think you taught me as well was I have always kept my sales pages really short because I was like, ADHD, I just want to know exactly what it is and go straight into it. And it was so interesting from what you taught me that because one of the things I've been learning about more recently is a bit more about understanding autism and things like that, and the understanding that my um, audience who either have autism and also are neurotypical, they want all the information. They want as
Mhm.
much information as possible, going down or the bottom, like everything that I would generally gloss over because I'm very like immediate. I want to be impulsive. And I think that was one of the best things. And it's so the things that you're teaching are not just about the words that you use, but the or how people approach things and how people
Mm.
absorb information and what information they want.
And yeah, and I think also like the experience that people are getting, and that's one of the ways I come at it from with the emails, for example. Like you talked about the colors. For me, it's like there's nothing more boring than just a wall of plain text. Let's make this a little bit interesting. Yes, I'll throw a GIF in, but I don't want to overload it with lots of different GIFs as well because that can get too much. But why not use some colors to draw people to particular sentences? There are people who read in different ways. Like you say, some people will read every single line, they'll want every piece of information. The majority of people are actually scanners. They will just look for the key pieces of information, is this relevant to me? Do I want to read it? Yeah, it's you're pointing at yourself for people who can't see, but yes, it's and me too. I'm very similar, but it's so I think of words. Maybe it is because of the brand photography part of my background, but I think of words in a very visual respect as well. And yeah, from that very experience driven direction as well, how people are experiencing the words as well as just reading them and getting the information. What are those being where where they present on a page, how big they are, how are you making them more important than other words? And it's told you I get really nerdy on this. This is a complete nerdy topic, but it's like writing websites is a very similar thing. There are ways that people read websites, so using that information to be able to give them the key stuff so they get what they want to know straight away. And for the people then that are the impulsive shoppers, or the quick decision makers, will go, yes, this is for me. And the other people are like, okay, that's given me some information, I want to know more. They'll keep scrolling and they'll keep reading. So yeah, it's definitely having all of those sort of aspects in mind. And I say that not in a way to, obviously, it's not about trying to appeal to everyone. You're still only wanting to appeal to the people that are going to connect with your words by the words that you choose, but how you present it all is going to help the way different people digest information, like take that information in, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to ask how you deal with being a bit of a multi-potentialite in that you have several different things that you do, but I guess there is a lot of overlap with what you do and it all complements
It's
each other really nicely.
Yes, it's taken years of thought and processing and understanding, but I finally came to realize, actually not that long ago, that having all of these different things, there is a through line for me. And it is very much, it all comes back to creativity, storytelling, and people, like who people are, like as in like you being your most unique self. That is the key line of everything I do that comes through. So when I finally found that through line, it all made sense. And which is why now you can go to my website and you'll see copywriting, you'll see brand photography. You'll soon be seeing more stuff about my personal writing as well, because I'm writing a novel and I'm trying to do more creative
Mm.
writing. But it all ties in again to that through line. So I feel like I can add that all in. Plus, also, I mean, I say to people when I first started my the copywriting and the brand photography business, people said to me, have two different websites, have two different businesses, have two different social media accounts. And I was like, well, no, that's not going to happen. I'm far too lazy for that. We're going to put it all in one place and I'm going to make it work. However, by hook or by crook, I will make this work. And over time, it turned out actually it's because I understood innately that there was this through line in there. I just had to find it first of all.
And lazy is just another way of saying work smarter, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
people who are annoyed that you've done it the smart way rather than the hard way.
I mean, this is kind of the way I go. I go when someone tells me to do something, I do go reaching for the exact opposite thing because, again, ADHD probably, but also because sometimes you can just see actually maybe there is a different way we can do this and it is going to work even if other people think it's wrong. And I'm all about playing and experimenting and seeing whether something, if it doesn't work, great, I throw it out and I go and try something else and learn something new. So yes.
Just as a total side note, and I don't even know if we'll add this into the podcast, but have you done Gretchen Rubin's Four Tendencies quiz before?
Mm. I keep meaning to. I know you've asked me this already, and I was like, I must do this, but I haven't got around. I must do it. Yes, I'm
Okay.
intrigued now to know.
Yeah, do it and come back because I'm very
Mm.
intrigued. For those that don't know, it's how you deal with internal and external expectations.
Yes.
The reason I mention it is because if you are, um, so if I describe it very quickly, um, holders are people that deal well with internal and external expectations. If someone asks them to do something or they expect themselves to do it, they'll do it. They also tend to be quite type A personalities, perfectionists, so they tend to be a bit more stressed as well. So there's pros and cons. Obligers are the ones that deal very well with external expectations and not with internal. So they can get something done if someone else is relying on them. Like if they go to the gym, they have to join a class or they have to um, get a personal trainer or something like that. Just their own motivation is not going to work. The two that I wonder whether you might be is either the questioner, which is the one that will deal well with internal expectations generally, but not always. They still need a bit of accountability sometimes. But external
Yes.
expectations, they need to fully understand why. And they will
Mm.
question everything because, and they are often what I call the bug hunters. They're often the ones that the first ones to try new software, but will also be the ones that find all the things that make the software better and improve it. But there will also be the smarter, work harders. And then you've got the rebels who expectations are not a thing for them. They just do things often if they're challenged and things like that.
Mm.
But there's a little bit of an element. But I have a feel, I could be wrong, but I have a feeling you might be a questioner just because of your
Oh,
ability to look at situations and go, well, why are we doing it like that? Why
yeah.
can't we do it a different way?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to dig into this now, definitely. I feel like I was going to ask you, can there be like some crossover? Because I think I maybe straddle a little bit the rebel and the questioner probably a little
Yeah,
bit.
I
So
think there is, but I think Gretchen Rubin, who did it, says if you're questioning your answer, you're probably a questioner.
oh well then, I feel like that answers that question.
But you,
Interestingly, for
oh, go
the
on,
for the
sorry.
longest time, for the longest time, my question always was how, which I've also learned is an autism trait. Apparently, you want to know the how and the logistics of things, and it's probably only been in the last couple of years that I've started to ask the question why a bit more, which is probably why I have now changed so much of my business because I want to get to I want to be able to understand things, and I think it is yeah, I'm all about being a little bit impulsive and making some crazy choices at times and just seeing what happens. But if I can also understand why I make those choices, um, it tends to go a bit better for me, I think, if I understand why I'm doing something, even if it seems a little bit out there.
On the flip side as well, you're probably experimenting to discover why more, and also
Yes, that's
needing to
true.
understand the why, because why you are experimenting or why you are trying out new things. But I know exactly the same. I love experimenting because I think it's the best, yeah, it's the best way to learn.
Mm,
But I love understanding the motivation behind things and
yes.
how our brains work and everything because
Mm,
and it goes hand in hand, doesn't it? Because you want to understand why something in an experiment didn't go right or didn't, and did or didn't,
yeah.
and that's where that
Yeah,
comes in.
exactly. Yeah, absolutely. And I think it is like you said there about learning from your mistakes. I say to people, this is how I've lived my entire life. I make the mistake first because now I know how to do it properly.
Yeah. So if you were doing your opt-in again,
Mm.
bear in mind you kind of set it up and then you had all of these different people come in. Is there anything you would do differently?
Well, I'm still considering this because actually I've just remembered the question you asked me earlier on is like, do I do this in batches and or do I have it on like and actually I've so far have kept it open all of the time, mostly because after that initial crazy moment of like 50 people signing up, it has dropped off quite significantly and it's much more manageable now. I get like four-ish requests a week or something like that, which is totally I can deal with that. And I kind of said to myself, I'm just going to keep this open and see what happens. It's very much a let's if it suddenly got too crazy again, then maybe I would look at paring it back or reducing it. And I have had thoughts since about like what would I do differently? Some of the things that have come to mind is would I productize it, like actually sell it instead of offering it as a freebie? Because I feel like a low cost thing, it could be like a one of these $9 type things, for example. It would
Mm,
probably still do quite well. Um, as and there's something about if you've paid for something, even if it's only a small amount, you're more likely to have a bit more like skin. I hate the phrase skin in the game, but it's like you're
yeah.
more likely to commit to it and maybe even sort of see it further and progress beyond that. So that's something I've considered. The other thing is actually it was a suggestion somebody made to me recently was instead of having it as like a one-on-one type thing, why don't you offer it as uh, an application process and say take three and then once a month have a Zoom meeting that everyone comes in and you do it like live with them or something like that.
Yeah.
So that's something I'm also thinking about. It hasn't, I don't know whether I've made any decisions on that yet. I'm unsure, but if I, yeah, it's like sort of just looking at it and from a learning perspective, the learning perspective for me has been actually that even though it was a little bit crazy and it was hard, it worked. And So I'm quite happy to keep things as they are at the moment. I've actually had a few people come to me since and said, how did you do that? So I'm actually going to create a
Mm.
video about how to do that
Yes.
and sell that to people now because, why not? Um, yeah, so I don't know whether there's anything else really I could say that I've learned from that other than I'm really pleased I did it.
You've got so much data there from people as well. Not sorry, data
Mm.
sounds like I'm talking about
No,
data
no,
mining or something.
yeah, no, it's right though. I've gleaned a lot of information definitely from
Yeah.
it.
So almost like if you had a period where you had loads coming in again,
Mm.
then you could almost do a very quick video of like the five most common things that you're mentioning to people. So
Yes,
that
yeah,
if you can, if they're delayed, you can send it to them and say, like, a week in, I'm a bit behind because we've had so many. Here's a video of some five common ones to see you through until your personalized one.
mm,
But yeah, there's so many experiments that you could do, but I think it's really impressive. And I think actually the key thing that's really interesting is I get a lot of freelancers who come to me and there's not necessarily an obvious product that they can offer. And we're all told about the funnels, and I'd like a funnel as well, but it's not always an obvious one for a freelancer who offers services mainly. This
mm.
is the perfect solution because it gives them a snippet of your service without
Yeah,
the full whack.
yeah, absolutely, and that's I think as well for people who are looking for a copywriter, trying to commit to a copywriter can be really hard if you've never seen other than what they're showing on their website any of their work. It's really hard to be able to tell whether they're going to be the right person to work with you. And I suspect that's probably partly what happened when I did your review, and you were like, okay, yeah, now I can see how you work. Let's see how we can do this. So because we all have different styles and ways of working together as well, don't we? I know other copywriters who are much more like process led, and not that that's a bad thing at all. But they just do it very differently, and I'm much more about the conversations and listening. And why don't we get together and put our heads together on it? It's the collaborative thing for me is feels more. It just feels it works well for me basically. So yeah.
I think you did such a good job because you didn't hard sell in that. You were just like, here's like a whole bunch of stuff I was doing it whilst I was watching the video. It was so good. And then at the end you were like, if you want to work together, here it is, and the details are below as well. But it was never like pushy, let's get on a call, and which would have scared me. Not from
Yes.
you actually, I don't think, because I already knew you had a great vibe about you, but yeah, it
Yeah.
didn't feel hard sales. So
Yeah,
right.
and I think that's oh, go on.
No, no, you go for it.
Oh, I was just going to say it's very much mostly because I've always been very put off by hard sales. It's I go back to all of these things like in networking spaces when someone comes at you with a business card and is like, bum, bum, this is what I do, da, 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 and then they've gone before you've even said, oh, hi. Um, I just keep coming back to it's very much about, even though I am a massive introvert, it's getting to know people, and I love getting to know people one on one because I feel like that's where the best connections happen. So yeah, that's how I kind of try and approach selling really, because here's my stuff, but you know if you're going to want to work with me or not. I'm not gonna beat you over the head with a stick to make you work with me. So
And you don't need to.
no.
Okay. Where can we find you online?
So I these days have decided to hang out just on Instagram and LinkedIn. I've been on Instagram forever. I was a photographer first, so that's why I'm on there. But you can find me it's at Sarah Wayte Creative is my Instagram account. I am now also on LinkedIn because somebody did point out to me I mostly work with businesses. Why am I not on LinkedIn? I was originally kind of rebelling against the whole corporate nature of it, but now I decided, well, I could just be me on there, and it seems to be working. So you can find me on there. Obviously, just search for Sarah Wayte, and I love connections as well. I love being able to just chat with people and meet people, especially if they are like-minded people. It's just like it's great. I love it. So yeah, those are the main places. My website is sarahwayte.com as well, which you'll probably find most of my stuff on there in some form or other. I think that's everything.
Yeah, and the I'll pop the link to your copy review freebie in
Yes,
the
please. Yeah, absolutely. I am
description
ready.
notes.
If a bunch of people want to sign up all at once, it's all good. I will just bear with me. And I will say, if you do come over to get your homepage copy review, please do fill out the form. So many people have signed up for the lead magnet and then not filled the form out. So unless you fill the form out, I cannot come and find your homepage to actually review it. So please do fill the form out when you get it.
Perfect. And go sign up to Sarah's newsletters. They're lovely. They're just it's like a lovely little bit of candy in my inbox. I love it. I open it up, oh,
Ah.
lovely, lovely, lovely. So
And feel free to reply to them as well. I always answer back. I love being able to have a conversation with people.
well, thank you so much for joining us. I hope everyone finds it useful. I'd love to know actually, and come join us in the Facebook group, the Freelance Lifestylers, or Instagram, or come join both Sarah and I on Instagram. And if you've been inspired by what Sarah shared and be like, oh, I really, really want to do something like this, drop Sarah a message or iMessage. And it sounds like there might be a course there that or a training that Sarah's going to be working
Yeah.
on. So when that's available, I will make sure I send that out because I think it's going to be really good for a lot of freelancers. So, right, everybody, have a wonderful freelance week. Thank you very much, Sarah.
Thank you.